that Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath. We talked about this a little bit online. We've been kind of exchanging emails back and forth, and this isn't really a question. We'll have our prayer and get into it. This is not really a question, but somebody sent me an observation this week or this past week, and they said, Brother Famble, it's very interesting to me that early on, the religious leaders picked up on the fact that Jesus had their number. And I kind of responded back. I'm like, okay, tell me what you, well, she said, it's interesting. When I feel threatened, it doesn't take me long to retaliate. And I thought, well, I won't call her name because y'all know her. I've never thought about it like that. And so chapter 12 is the first, I think, blatant, to borrow her word, retaliation. The religious leaders kind of been getting their dander up, especially in chapter 9 and chapter 10. But chapter 12 is the first direct retaliation. And if you watch the movie Rambo, First Blood, the religious leaders drew first blood. And so at this particular point, Richard, them old boys deserve what they get. Like we used to tease them in school. That's what you get. Well, it's coming. It's coming. Let's have our prayer. We'll get right into 12. Pray with me. Father, we are so blessed this morning and so thankful that you have allowed us to come to this place corporately. Soon we'll gather around your table, partake of the Lord's Supper, sing songs of praise and encouragement to you. Lord, all for the express purpose of just saying thank you. We get to worship you. We get to stop at the beginning of a week, and we get to put you first in everything that we do, especially in studying your word and studying Matthew and his perspective of the gospel. Help us to learn some things, Lord, that we can put into our lives, especially today, dealing with conflict and dealing with people that don't believe the way that we do. Help us to handle things the way Jesus handled them. Bless those who are hurting, those who physically and spiritually stand in need of your blessing. Help us to always be Christians and not be high-minded or haughty, but to serve each other in simplicity and ultimately, Lord, just praise your name. Thank you for this Bible study time that we have, and make us worthy and help us to always realize to set aside some time every day and to read your word, to study your word and pray to you so that we can tell you thank you for your goodness, your richness, and for your mercy. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath. You've read this before, I'm sure, but those online, you may not be as familiar. All the disciples were trying to do was get something to eat. Okay, that's it. They were just trying to get, can a brother just get something to eat without somebody having something to say? In this world that we live in that's obsessed with performance, Jesus invites us to find rest. And I think that's the idea here, because again, the shortest verse, one of the shortest verses in the Bible, but deals with the idea of rest. That's really all Jesus cares about. But this idea of rest, we're going to see two sides of that same coin. Number one, the religious leaders thought that rest was, okay, you're doing good if you obey all the ceremonial laws. That's not what Jesus was about. Jesus was about a relationship in him. So this chapter 12 shows the tension between religious demands and then freedom that Christ offers. And from 12, this opposition, I had a chance to go back and kind of peek through my notes and think about this. From 12, this opposition is going to pick up steam, and it's going to come to a head on the cross when they set up this kangaroo court and frame him, and he ends up being killed. But it starts right here. This is where I think the beginning of this actually starts. Jesus reveals his divine authority, his gentle compassion, and the power to deliver. He challenges us, I think, in chapter 12 to look beyond the rituals and look at relationship. Stop looking at the rules of how Christianity, what Christianity is, and look at a relationship in him. And he's starting this argument. He's starting this logic by looking at something that they thought was very holy, and that is the Sabbath. And he's starting off and coming out of the gate. But again, remember I told you, he didn't draw first blood. They did. At the time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. Remember, the Sabbath was holy. They had all kinds of rules. I won't bore you with all of that, but they considered the Sabbath a holy day. So much so, you couldn't work, okay? Richard, if you had to catch up on the route, you could catch up on Monday. You couldn't do it on I'm sorry. You couldn't do it on Saturday. I'm Sunday. You couldn't do it. His disciples were hungry. Here's where it all draws first blood. His disciples were hungry, and they began to pick some heads of grain and eat them. When you read this through Luke, I think, calls it wheat. But anyway, they got some grain, and they plucked the head of the grain off, and really in a simple motion, it was probably something like this, just to kind of separate, they can get ready to eat some grain. And here they go. When the Pharisees saw this, the Pharisees being the religious leaders, look, your disciples are doing what's unlawful on the Sabbath. He answered, haven't you read what David did? When he and his companions were hungry, he entered into the house of God, he and his companions, and they ate the consecrated bread, the show bread, the bread that was in for worship and designed for worship. They were hungry, and that is true. They went in and they ate the show bread. And that lit the fire. Now, you got to understand something. I'm being funny deliberately on this one. Okay, we understand that the rule is don't work on the Sabbath. I don't think rubbing your hands together to get some grain, so you can eat. Michael, this kills me. I mean, this just floors me. I don't think that's what the old ceremonial law had in mind. I don't. But they took it to its extreme. I mean, you're plucking some grain off, and you're doing this to separate it so you can eat. Up! You're working. Stop! You're in sin. Now, I'm laughing. I'm having fun with it. Y'all are laughing at me, and that's okay too. There's some brethren. Now, don't laugh too hard. We got some brethren like that today. We really do. We got some brethren that'll do that today. And he comes back at them with an example of what David did when he entered the house of God and his companions ate the showbread, the consecrated bread, which Jesus admits it wasn't lawful for them to do, but it was only for the priests. Comes up with another example. Or haven't you read the law that the priests on Sabbath duty in the temple desecrate the Sabbath and yet are innocent? I tell you that something greater than the temple is here. What's Jesus getting at? Let's unpack this for a minute. Certainly Jesus sees some things that's just utterly ridiculous, and he's calling them out on it. I mean, he is really just calling them out. Let's unpack this. What's Jesus trying to get them to see? We know what they want him to see. What do you think Jesus is trying to get them to see? Let's unpack this for a minute. What do you think? He's above his own law. Yeah. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, he's above his own law. And they're really coming at him. And we've already talked about this before on why they're coming at him. They're trying to find the least little nitpicky thing to, pun intended, to nail him on. Okay, pun intended. All right? What else do you think Jesus is trying to get them to see? What else? Yes, and I also think he's trying to stretch them, because I don't think they see the bigger picture. Yes, and that's what I mean. He's stretching them to use your brain. There is such a thing as the law, and there's such a thing as the intent of the law. Okay? Stay with me for a moment because this worked in my head, so it may not work in practicality. Okay. The law says that you are only supposed to do, what's it on the highway, 75? I remember when it used to be 55. I'm going to leave that alone. All right? 75. But if a cop or a police officer pulls you over and you tell him, listen, I'm really trying to get to the hospital. See, I got this big old cut and my arm is bleeding. I've got it packed as best I can. Yes, I know I was speeding, but sir, I'm trying to get to the hospital. I didn't call the ambulance. I'm trying to get myself there. Do you really believe that the police gonna stand there? Okay, I'm gonna write you a ticket. Just wait just a minute. And I'm gonna stay right here while I write you. What do you think might happen in that scenario? In that case, what do you think might happen?
I just drive off.
Stop that.
I had one to stop me,
Oh, did you?
and I told him if I got it out of state,
And I'm gone.
don't have a wreck.
That's my point. That's my point. You know, any common sense, which common sense don't seem to be too common anymore. But now in most cases, my friends that are police officers tell me, Freddie, if that's the case, we're gonna escort you. Okay, they're gonna say, okay, follow me and put your lights on. I'll put mine on. They'll escort you to the. When I first moved here, across the street, and I keep forgetting her husband's name. Her name is Cassie, and they were telling me, you know, if you ever get into an accident, things happen. I don't know how we got on the subject. She was like, don't go to Sweetwater, just go straight to Abilene, because chances are the Sweetwater Hospital is going to take you to Abilene anyway, so you might as well just save yourself some trouble. Go straight to Abilene. And I was like, Cassie, I ain't been here long, but I know this. Sweetwater shorter distance than Abilene. I can get to Sweetwater much faster. I don't know my miles and all of that, but it's less than going to Abilene. And she told me a story about, you know, one of her relatives a long time ago made that mistake, and it ended up working out badly. And it would have been better had they just gone to the hospital in Abilene. She was just trying to be nice, trying to, you know, tell me. Because I really would have just said, oh, yeah, Sweetwater's closer, but now, no, I think I'd do you, Brother Eulin. I think I'd put my foot down in that car, and if I couldn't call the ambulance, and away you go. My friends that are police officers tell me if it's really, truly an emergency, they will escort you. Yes, you know that the rule is, you know, 75 or less, but that's for, but there are such a thing as exceptions and emergencies. And that's where you you bend the rules, you go with the flow, if you will. And that's the problem. The Pharisees couldn't bend. Not couldn't bend, that's not the right word. Had to be made to bend. Okay? They just couldn't get there. And Mandy's right. He was really trying to expand their mind. When you read this through Luke's account, Luke even tells about the Sabbath and the idea, okay, so what if you had an ox that fell in a hole on the Sabbath? You just going to leave it there? Or how you gonna handle that? Again, he's trying to get them to see there is the law, and then there's the intent behind the law. And where Jesus is here, I think, and I'll take your comments, I think he's trying to stretch them and to get them to look beyond the law and look at the intent of the law. Look at what this law was designed to do, and really to get them to see beyond every little jot or tittle or every little thing when it came to the relationship that they had. And I think it was all about relationship. It's one thing to have a rule or a law. It's another thing to take a step back and predicate that on a relationship. What do you think? So looking at verse 7, here's where I think he comes in on them. If you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would have not condemned the innocent. For the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. Going on from that place, he went to their synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there, looking for a reason to bring charges against Jesus. And that's the problem. It's not that Brother Michael was doing anything to try to understand. They were looking for a reason to nail Jesus. And it wasn't so much they were looking to help or, Mandy, they could be stretched to look. Their intent was wrong. And if you look for something hard enough, you're going to find it. It doesn't take long or take much to find it. And this is why I think chapter 12 is so pivotal in Matthew. They've drawn first blood. And that perspective of looking for a reason without trying to reason itself, that is the problem. He found the man with a shriveled hand, looking for a reason to bring charges against Jesus. They asked him, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" Boy, I sure don't like people that ask questions that they already know the answer to. They already knew the answer, but they were trying to trip him up to see what he would say. And I love this. He said to them, "If any of you has a sheep that falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not take hold of it and lift it out?" And I can imagine he probably, Mandy, in my mind, he probably paused and did this. Comments? Anything to say? And then he goes on to the next. I'm sorry. Then he goes on. How much more valuable is a person than a sheep? And that speaks volumes to me. See, Jesus is not interested in the rules as much as those guys are. He's interested in relationship. I think that was the problem. That's what he was exposing, Mandy, trying to get them to expand their mind and look around. They didn't give a flying fig about a relationship. They wanted to know you got to follow the rules, cross all the T's, and dot all the I's. And they didn't care. And I think that's one of the biggest points of conflict for Jesus and these religious leaders. Questions? Comments? Hardy. That's a good word. That's a good word. That's a good word. That's a very good word. Because I forget my verse. When they were looking for the reason, I guess that's verse 10. Hardy says, if we look at him long enough, irrespective of the works that he's doing, if we look at him long enough, we're going to find something. And we're better. Yep. We're better. And see, I like that because that also has application for me and for us. We don't need to be hardy. We don't. The rules are important. I'm not saying that they're not, but let's back up sometimes and look at the spirit or the intent of what really is trying to be done. Anything else? Questions? Comments? Therefore, it's lawful to do good on the Sabbath. I love that. It's not so much a right and a wrong. What we're doing is doing good on the Sabbath. If you got an animal, a sheep, I think he says, that falls into the pit, you're not going to just leave it there. You're going to do some good on the Sabbath. Verse 13, and he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." So he stretched it out. And it was completely restored, just as sound as the other. Uh-oh, here we go. Verse 14, but the Pharisees went out. They couldn't even be happy for a man that got his hand healed. Okay, they couldn't even say, "Brother Michael, man, I'm so glad for you. I know you've been struggling with that for a while. I'm so glad you got some help and you're doing better." Them jokers did, I said jokers in church. I'm sorry. Those people, verse 14, the Pharisees went out. Mandy, I love your word haughty. I'm going to insert it right here. The Pharisees went out, parentheses, with their haughty self, close parentheses, and plotted how they might kill Jesus. All because they got shown up. They did. They got exposed. And I really think here is a good time for us to realize, okay, if in my life I'm more concerned with rules than relationship, then Houston, we may have a problem. I was working at the university, and they had asked me, position of management after a while. I said, okay, fine. and several of the technicians that I ended up working with, most of them were pretty cool about it. There were two, Mandy, that they didn't have it. They weren't having it. They weren't happy for me. They didn't want anything to do with me, and they always treated me differently from that point on. One of them, and we got there 8 o'clock. One of them came in one day about 8:15, and I wasn't going to say anything. Had my vice president not seen it, because he was leaving my office, now you are going to say something, right? Yes, sir, I'll say something. Okay? So I went to him, and I said, so-and-so, have no problem. I mean, is there something that we need to do? You need some help to get here at 8 o'clock? See, there you go. I knew. I was just waiting on you to come drop the hammer on me. I said, I'm not dropping the hammer. I'm just, I'm really doing what my supervisor told me to do. You know what I found out later, Richard? He had put his resume in for that same position when it came up. I did not. Okay, I was asked to give them a resume because I was content with staying in my little office, doing my job. Come 5 o'clock, I'm going home. I'm through with y'all. Okay, but Michael, I was asked, hey man, we'd like to get a resume from you for this help desk management position. Here's what it involves. Oh, and it pays more money. Oh, it does? Oh, okay. And Mandy, that's exactly what I did. So he had put his resume in. They didn't accept his, they accepted mine. I did not know that until I went back and told my supervisor what transpired. He said, well, yeah, I kind of figured. He's still mad. I said, mad about what? Well, he told me. He said, well, we invited you to apply. He turned in a resume. We didn't even give him an interview. I thought, oh. So from that point on, now he knows, and he's eyeing me, thinking behind the scenes that I'm better than he is. Come on. We're all trying to just do a job. Now, why did I tell you that story? Because circumstances change people. And I believe circumstances not only changes people, changes their perception. I love in the end of verse 14, they went out, and not only were they looking, I like Matthew's word. NIV says plotted, and I did not look this up or have it memorized from King James. Did it use plotted? What does it use? They had a meeting. Okay, they held a council. In other words, they were so mad till they took action for adverse reactions. Plotted, held a council, whatever. And my whole point here, and I'm going to leave this in a minute, but my whole point is, number one, you cannot please everybody. But I think number two here, what Jesus is teaching, sometimes we got to look at the relationship. And we understand the rules, but the relationship takes precedent when it comes to the rules. Now that I understood that, I almost called his name. Me and him had a talk later on. And I told him, I said, man, I did not know that you had put in an application for this. I mean you no harm, no ill will. They asked me to put in a resume for this. So can we still work together? Even though choices were made above both of our heads. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going through some things. And he told me what he was going through. He and his wife have since divorced, but he was going through that at that particular time. Again, why am I going through all this detail? Because it's not just about a rule or a broken rule. Sometimes you got to take time to hear the whole story. And the benefit of the relationship, he and I still, to this day, have a great relationship, okay? The relationship is more important than just the sacred rules. How do you hear what I'm saying? I need to make sure I'm communicating this very, very clearly. I'm going to move on, I promise. Somebody give me some feedback. What do you hear? What do you hear me saying right here? I really want to know. What do you hear? Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you said, to get the sheep out of a hole in the ground. What happens if one of your children or your wife was picking them up with that and you said, oh, Lord,
Or back then, Mandy, even more than that, one of your servants, if they fell,
yeah, I
you
need
know,
that.
and
I'm
busted
going
your.
to something
I'm saying,
closer to them.
I understand, I understand.
Or themselves.
Or if you
They
fell
have
in,
to live in a hole until somebody would dig them out.
yeah.
No.
Or until after the Sabbath when
Right.
somebody could go get them. Yeah,
Sorry about that, dude.
yeah,
We're busy. It's the Sabbath. We
yeah,
can't help you.
yeah.
Hang in there.
Hang in there, praying for you.
That doesn't do any good.
It doesn't, and that's the point. Thank you,
Words.
thank y'all, because I've gotten in trouble, not one church ago, two churches ago, when this whole hypothesis started to formulate, and I said similar to what I'm saying now. I started getting the side eye from two of the elders. I knew, I'm in trouble now. And I'm just saying we need to look past just the rules, take in the whole picture, learn a person's story, and the relationship, I think, takes precedent over the rules. True rest is found in Christ, not in a religious ritual. The Pharisees accused Jesus and his disciples of breaking Sabbath laws. Jesus cites the case that David was eating the consecrated bread and the priests on work of the Sabbath. Religion focuses on rules. Jesus focuses on relationship. I couldn't have said it any better, more succinctly than that. It's not that the rules are unimportant. Jesus is more important. And rest, as we get to the end of this chapter, is not about what we do, but it's about who we are with. If we're going to come into me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, you'll find rest. That rest is predicated on a relationship. Questions? Comments? Go ahead, Mandy.
Moses' laws were given as a guideline.
Yes, ma'am, but
They took it up too many steps.
yes, ma'am, I understand that, and you are correct. And I think that was the bedrock of the problem. It was designed as guidelines, kind of like when my grandson started bowling. They would put these little bumper thing guards on each side of the bowling, because when you're like 4 and 5, you don't want them to get gutter balls. You want to make sure that it's a positive experience. Okay, he's a junior in high school now, and I mean, already earned some college money through a scholarship that he was bowling in 2 weeks ago. Now he doesn't need those bumper guardrails anymore. He gets more strikes than spares. Well, when he was starting off, though, they didn't want him. They didn't want him discouraged because that ball just hit the little thing. And then after a while, they took it off and they explained to him, okay, if it goes in the gutter, you're not going to get any points. Oh, okay, so I need to keep it. Yes, okay, you're right.
Not to put their hand in the fire. I
Yep.
shouldn't have to tell my adult children not to put their hands in the fire.
But if that child's 2 or 3,
That's what I'm saying.
you're going to have to tell them.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Thank y'all for putting up with me. This is one of my, in Matthew, this is a sensitive part of the chapter for me because I don't think we fully get the fact that, yeah, the rules are important. I'm not saying scripture is not important. It is. But we got to back up. And we got to look at what's the intent behind what Jesus is saying and what he's trying to do. Okay, I'm going to move on. Verse 15. Aware of this, Jesus withdrew from that place. Well, yeah, because the heat was getting turned up. A large crowd followed him, and he healed all who were ill. He warned them not to tell others about him. Now do you understand that statement? Because of what he was dealing with, and I thought about this last week and making note, because of the friction that's now coming to a head, or starting to bubble and come to a head with the Pharisees, now when he helps people, he's telling, shh, be quiet. Not that he didn't want to advertise who he was. This friction between him and the religious leaders, that would have just been one more thing, Mandy, that they could nail him on.
You think he was protecting them as well?
I think so. I do. I think so. I'm going to jump ahead for a second. And I know this is in Mark 9. I don't remember where it is in Matthew. But do you remember the man who was born blind? The reason I say Remember that? Remember? Called mom and daddy. Now look, is this your son? Yeah. And he was born blind? Yeah. Are you sure? I think I would know. I think I would know. Well then, how is it that he's seeing? I don't know. He grown. You gotta go ask him. I'm sorry. Don't quote. Don't y'all come for me. Do not come for me. Y'all stop. They've already accused. Brother, we like your class. No, you don't. Just leave me alone. But do you remember? They were really, Mandy, they had interrogated, and I'm choosing that word deliberately. They had already interrogated the blind man. He told them what he knew, which was truth. They didn't buy it. They called his parents and then interrogated them. You remember that? And so that's what I'm saying. At a certain point, Jesus told them to shush. Yes, I think the protection was twofold. I think the protection was for him because he knew this was bubbling up between he and the religious leaders. Also them. He didn't want them, this is a bad way of saying it. I can't think of a better way of saying it. He didn't want them caught in the crossfire. Maybe that's not a good way of saying it, and I apologize. But that's the best I could think of. He didn't want them caught in the crossfire. Go ahead, Mandy. I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. Oh, boy, thank you for, Jesus, thank you for going through all this because I don't think I could have done it. Verse 16, he warned them not to tell others about him. Well, now I think we understand. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. Verse 18, here is my servant whom I have chosen, the one I love, in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will proclaim justice to the nations. He will not quarrel or cry. No one will hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick will he not snuff out until he has brought justice through victory. In his name, the nations will put their hope. And I also know that the religious leaders were well trained in the old law, and now for this to refer to him and they would not buy it, I think that further added fuel to the fire. I think that further agitated the situation. See, Jesus fulfills prophecy, but he's a fulfillment of the prophecy, not like they thought, but in a gentle, spirit-led servant. He had the nerve to be fulfillment of prophecy, but not the way they were expecting it. I got to pause here. You know, if we're really going to be Christians and we're going to let our light shine, I think there's a lesson for us. I think there's some times when we haven't in the past, but we need to pick up a basin, wrap a towel around us, and wash some feet. Serve some people. And in the past, I have noticed, not just churches of Christ, but at churches in general, we would rather just throw dollars at something rather than just put in the sweat equity. You know what I mean by that? You know what I mean? Rather than just doing the work. It's easier, Lord help me here. Brother Michael, it's easier for me to mail a check to Indonesia rather than putting some things together with my own hands, or if I have the means, getting on a plane and going to Indonesia to actually help do the work. It's easier for me to just write the check and send it. And I think that's where, in the body of Christ, y'all, we're going to have a reckoning. I really do. We need to be able, if you are able to pick up a basin and wrap the towel around you, and you need to be able to serve, then we need to serve some people with no strings attached. He was the fulfillment of prophecy, but not the way that they thought. God's chosen servant then brings two things. Justice. I started to put three things. I still might. Justice and hope. I probably need to put justice, mercy, and hope. That's probably what I need to do. The character of Christ is all about gentle, being humble, and being compassionate. When we reflect his heart, then we serve with humility and with grace. Spiritual power flows from a surrendered spirit. Sounds like I'm mad, and I'm really not. I'm frustrated. I'm sick of people saying, well, I'm a Christian, I'm a member of the body of Christ, but you don't do anything to help anybody. Or you don't go out of your way to try to show that gentleness and humility and compassion. You just punch a time clock every Sunday morning and you're good to go. There's more than that. It's about the relationship that we have with Christ rather than the rules. Questions, comments? One more section, and I'm going to hush running my mouth for this Sunday morning. It got to a point to where they even accused him of being the son of the devil, Beelzebub. They brought him a demon-possessed man who was blind and mute, and Jesus healed him so that he could both talk and see. And the people were astonished and said, could this be the son of David? But here we go again. Lord bless the Pharisees' heart. When the Pharisees heard this, they said, it's only by Beelzebub, the prince of demons, that this fellow drives out Really? You got to be kidding me. Mandy, come on. Go. Well, it does to them. Yes, ma'am. It did to them. Would you leave them people alone? I mean, can you imagine how bad it has to be or how much disdain you have to have? Well, yeah, that's fine, but see, he the prince of devils, so that's the reason he can do. Really? You can't even be happy. See, this is my point. I don't want to put too fine a point on this. This man was healed. He was delivered. He was helped, whatever word you want. He was mute, and now he could, both talk and see. And these individuals, I almost said jokers again. These individuals, well, yeah, but the only reason he could talk about being born in the objective case. Can you just say you're wrong? And let's just move on. Mandy, I think that's your point of frustration, because it certainly is mine. Okay? I'm not putting words in your mouth, and I'm gonna hush you here in a minute. You can't even be happy for someone who has gotten healed or some relief or a miracle. You're so blind, you cannot even be happy for somebody who got some help. Can y'all tell this one really bothers me? It really does. I think it bothers Mandy more than me. It bothers me. Yeah, that would have been mine. Yep, that would have been mine. Yep. But I mean, look what they're saying, and I'm gonna stop here because I'm having too much fun. Verse 22, one more time. They brought him a demon-possessed man. He was blind and mute. All the people, and Jesus healed him so that he could both talk and see. Look at verse 23. All the people were astonished and said, could this be the son of David? I mean, they were starting to believe. The miracles and everything was happening. Jesus was showing them he was winning them over by showing them. And all of a sudden now here these guys go. But when the Pharisees heard this, they said, it's only by Beelzebub, the prince of demons, that this fellow drives out demons. Jesus knew, here's your point, Mandy, their thoughts, and he said to them, every kingdom divided against itself will be ruined, and every city or household divided against itself will not stand. If Satan drives out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then can his kingdom stand? A perfect logical argument. I'm going to stop here. Perfect logical argument. They don't see it even after this. They still don't see it. But the point I think that we need to end with, and I'll wrap up with this, when it comes to our relationship with God, don't let the rules blind you to what's going on as far as a deeper, richer relationship with Christ. Yeah, we get frustrated. Yeah, I get frustrated with the Pharisees, but tell the truth, isn't there a little bit of Pharisees in us sometimes? I'm not pointing fingers, I'm pointing fingers at me. And I have to really back up and look at the whole picture. Because a lot of times, why come to a premature conclusion when I don't know the whole story? let's just back up and see if we can get the whole story. I'm gonna stop right here. I'll pick up here next week and move forward. Questions, comments, anything else? I don't beat up the Pharisees too much. I mean, I have a lot of fun with them, yes, but there's a little bit of them in us, or me and them, whichever way you wanna say that. Questions, comments? Let's be dismissed and get ready for our morning worship. Thank you all very much. Mandy, you're gonna like the next one, because if that one was good for you, wait until the next one. He's gonna. Did you read it? Okay, it's even better than the first one. It's even better than the first one. And he shouldn't have to go through all those changes.
No, but we're also looking at it from a wrong, we're, how to phrase this, nothing is right about that. I'm not saying that.
Correct.